and then we will be off to the races.
Well, our audio actually right now is live, just so you know.
Oh no, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
Okay, good. They can still hear us, brother.
No more. Somebody sent me an email. No more Macho Man impressions on the show. That was some.
Oh man,
I feel like that's
man.
I feel like that's the standard wrestling podcast clause.
Well, I don't think the Macho Man was such an issue. It was that you were mimicking him in his final moments.
No. We don't have to like bring up what it was that happened.
You were like, just go, oh man, I'm seeing stores.
Hey,
brother.
we're gonna roll that intro. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And the show is about to start, episode 8. Please enjoy the intro, and we are about to begin. Welcome in once again to the Travis Dufour Show. We are in episode 8 now. My name is Travis Dufour, and I'd like to welcome first my co-host, my best friend in life, Mike Yatsko.
Oh, best friend in life.
Upgrade. I wanted nice, to go ahead and let you know now.
I feel honored. I feel honored.
And in the words of Mike Yatsko, dig it, daddy. And so I got that out of the way. Coming on now, longtime friend, known this guy also about 15 years, friend of the show, comedian. He's got a new comic. We're going to be talking about it. You name it, he's doing it right now. He's living his life. It's Tate Griffen.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, welcome aboard. Man.
Yeah, man.
Some
that opening, man. That opening's pro end. I really dig that. That's really cool.
I knew I had to bring my A game today because I'm trying to get booked. You know what I mean?
trying to get on the card, huh?
Yeah. You need a ring announcer for Elite. Just let me know.
I'll say trying to get on the card. That is like chapter 7 of my autobiography.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be getting into a little bit of that later on in the episode. But I did want to start it off, man. It's not so much wrestling these days, dude. If you're on the Tate Griffen comedy Facebook page, you can go like that now. You can see this guy. He's going seemingly all over the East Coast. I've seen some North Carolina stuff. I've seen you, man. You're really popping up. What's going on?
It just stand-up comedy and where it takes you. It's been a blast. I make the joke that I retired from wrestling, like active wrestling, about 3.5 or 4 years ago. And it was just a little before then that I started stand-up comedy. So I just decided that I'd rather be hurt emotionally rather than physically. So I kind of moved into that direction. But yeah, it's great. No hauling around, especially with promoting. It's no hauling around a 6,000-pound ring. The only massive, like outrageous and ludicrous ego I got to deal with is my own. Things like that. But yeah, we had got to go to Chicago and been to Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, PA. I've gotten to do. It's funny, in the last 3 years, I've probably visited more states doing stand-up than I did in the 20 years before that in wrestling. So it's been really brutal, but it's also been fun.
Going to all these places, though, man. Have you been like looking at the festivals too? Like where at do you think you are? Like
in terms of what does that mean?
that is a loaded question.
Where am I at?
Where are you, brother?
I'll tell you, when I first started doing it, I thought, man, I want to make a record. I want to make an album. And so I was going to all the open mics, and then I guess that's where it started, was doing open mics. And then from there, it went to trying to get on showcases, which are basically, a lot of times the open mic guys, the guys that run those shows, will then put on like a little showcase or something. Like Aaron Stevens, and Nick Tide, and those guys in Hagerstown were doing that. Ryan Nesser and Frederick was doing that. And just those types of things. And with my previous experience in promoting wrestling, which was about, I guess at that point, about 12 years of that, it wasn't too much different to start promoting comedy shows, which then gave me the opportunity to bring other people in that I might not otherwise get to meet. and then make those ends and things and be able to go and perform with them and for them. And so it's been fun.
What's been one of your favorite venues? I see that you run something in Kaiser, West Virginia. That looks like an impressive place.
Yeah, the Indie on Main. It's an indie art house theater. Holds about 110 people. It's a bit modest, but it's super cool. What was great about those guys is they let me run shows there as often as I wanted. I did a monthly show there for, I guess, close to 2 or 3 years, and each time we'd have 10 comedians for $10. So everybody got a chance to be in a professional theater, get a professional copy of their set, things like that, and just a chance to get a lot better. A lot of times, too, with a town like Kaiser, it's so small, you get a lot of the same people come to the show, so it kind of forced you to work on new material. You couldn't just kind of, if I have 10 solid minutes, I can go to, 100 places and do the same 10. When you're talking to that same crowd, you kind of have to work for it and be learning new stuff. And I did that for about 3 years, and then I went to the Indie and recorded my album there. So that was kind of like, once I did it, I was like, man, this is cool. And then I had about, I guess, 9 or 10 shows in 8 cities lined up to kind of promote the album. And 3 days after it came out, the whole world shut down. So I have enough, fortunately, now to line my casket, copies of that album. So
damn, what a break though, man. Like, you hear about the trials and tribulations in pro wrestling, which you lived through that, but now you're in comedy and this is like one of your trials.
Well, I always think about it. Well, the good side is I didn't die. So, it could have been worse. I'm not laughing at the people that died, although if I were, they wouldn't be hearing me because they're dead. But what I am trying to say is that it could have been worse. Me not selling an album that, it just means less people were disappointed by it.
Yeah, I guess there was that big jump there, but you were still doing it during the pandemic. I saw some YouTube videos showing up here and there, and
Yeah, dude, it was weird because there were places that were like, if you're doing it live, then you're they want to throw you in one camp or the other. There's the people, it's like you're either somebody that says you got to wear a mask and you got to do all this stuff and you got to do it every second of every day and spray all your groceries with Windex and shit, or you are, it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter, it's all a hoax. That, like, it seemed like everybody was quick to throw you in one side or the other. So either I stayed home and you're a big wuss, or you go out and you're a piece of shit for putting people in danger. Sorry, is this like we can say whatever? I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, no, by all means.
Okay.
Mike loves the
This
drop
is the internet. There are no rules.
Hey, just like to respect the hosts and the hospitality.
Mike, that is a good question for you. Would you have checked out like a pandemic live streamed show? Was you one of the people in the audience for that?
I was not doing much of that. No, the pandemic, I wasn't doing much of anything. I was.
Dude, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, I didn't do any of that. I didn't do a live stream during the pandemic. I need people to be sitting there so I can read them.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
you got to have that.
I don't even mean that like, oh, if you did it, there's something wrong with you. I'm saying I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. It would have broken me. I needed to see people. The idea of sitting here telling a joke in my living room and then trying to look and see if there's anybody in there laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't really get a good feel for what's working and what's not.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to have it on my resume that I was bombing from the comfort of my own home.
There are a lot of Zoom comedy cringe compilations out there.
Oh, really? That's funny.
But like I said, no disrespect to any of the comedians that were just trying to stay. I mean, this is the kind of business where you gotta exercise your muscle, That's why we hit so many open mics.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just to mention it, a couple of guys that did really good when I saw him on those was Will Abels, who's out of Hagerstown, and he's toured all over the country, but he did that. He did some of that stuff. And Neil Rubenstein, he's a New York City comic that lives in Oklahoma now, and he's come in and done some stuff for us, and he was really, really good at that. Really good at that, of being on those live streams and stuff.
Man, very cool, very cool. Now, Mike, this is a question for you, but it's the same question for Tate. Like, for you to get up onto the stage, Mike, are you able to do that? Do you think you could write jokes and tell them?
Get up on the stage and tell jokes? Yeah. Absolutely not. No, it takes a special person to be able to do that. Public speaking was never my thing, all the way back to school. That's just not my forte. So I have a lot of respect for the people that can get up there and do that. Because you're vulnerable up there. You can completely bomb and nobody can like your stuff. And in fact, in most cases you will, especially early on in your career. So you got to go through a lot of awkwardness, I imagine, a lot of rejection, and I don't think I'm cut out for that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was in a band for 10 years, and it's like, whether it's band or whether it's wrestling, there's always somebody else to blame. Steve Martin said that stand-up comedy is the ego's last stand. And I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anything more true, because, if you're covering a Beatles song, for example, and it sucks, it's like, well, it's not your song, you're doing somebody else's song. And the bass player messed up or the drummer messed up. It's like you always have somewhere to point. When you're doing stand-up comedy, it is you saying your shit. And if it's not funny, it's not because the Beatles wrote a bad song or your bass player sucks or your drummer was hungover. It's because you are not funny. Like, it is a rejection of you on multiple levels. And it can be brutal.
What's that feeling like when you're telling a joke and you're hitting that punchline, and then there's like, have you had that moment where there's just like crickets?
I can tell you, but go ahead, Tate.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, it's almost like you're trying to just get some laughs or whatever, say whatever you can say, and you hope it's funny. And when it is, great. When it's not, even if you thought it would be, you're kind of out there on a limb. What really bugs me is it's like something works. It works, and you're like looking forward to saying it, and then you hit it, and it doesn't work, and then you're like, oh shit. Have you guys got time for just a quick story?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Tons of time.
Okay, cool. So I'm in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Just I guess it's about an hour and a half outside of Manhattan, and I got booked to do this show, and it was at a retirement center. And the money was right, but it's like, you do 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, well, let's see how active these folks are. I pull in, and they got like golf carts and tennis courts. So I was like, okay, these are like the folks in their 50s and 60s that are just not wanting to deal with a house anymore. They're partying, like, this will be fun. So I go in, and they're like, you're on the third floor, and that's the nursing station floor. So I get up there, and they're like, well, you can just perform in the dining hall because the residents are already in there, and it's hard to move them from one place to the next. I'm like, well, how many are there? I said, 35 people. I said, how old are they? And this lady says, the baby of the group's 88 years old. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, never mind, like, being clean and telling clean jokes. These people don't know what the fucking internet is. Like, what can you do, So I get in there, and I was like, 30 minutes, huh? They're like, yeah. It's actually 45. Shit like that happens all the time. You're like, what am I going to do? So I go to the front, and there's like 30 people. There's like 25 women and 5 men. Again, the youngest person's 88 years old. Almost all of them are in wheelchairs, and half of them have those IVs on the stand. So they're just chilling. So I get through material I thought would be appropriate 10 minutes in, and I'm out. And half the women are asleep. And I'm just trying to do what I can to get through it. And so now I'm just asking questions, like just anything to try to get a response. I'm like, oh, well, who here likes to eat? Anybody here a fan? I love to eat. Anybody else like to eat? This lady says, I'm not allowed to eat.
Like, I'm not allowed to eat.
I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, she's on an all liquid diet. She's not allowed to eat. And I'm trying to recover from this because I'm only 10 minutes into 45-minute set. And when I go to say something, this lady who's been asleep the whole time in the front row, out of nowhere, just goes, change the channel, Herbert.
Oh, wow.
Dude, it was fucking brutal. And I'm like, oh my God. And I look around and went, who's Herbert? And her friend says, oh, that's her husband. He died 25 years ago.
Oh, man.
And dude, it's brutal. I got to go out in the car and cry a little bit when it was over. And I'm like, oh my God. And I look over, and this guy who I find out's name's Sal, he's 102. He looks at me and goes, fella, you're so unfunny. She's dreaming about her dead husband telling you to shut the fuck up and get out of here. Yeah, dude. So you're talking about it being brutal? Yeah, that's brutal. I'd rather fall in thumbtacks, onto the floor than do that.
And how do you handle situations like that? Have you ever been up on stage and something's not just, it's just not clicking for whatever reason? Has there ever been a moment where you're just like, F this, you just want to walk off and just be done with it and
You
call it a
know
night?
what? I'd love to say that I've never felt that way, but I can say that I've never actually done that. I look at it like every one of the situations that I found myself in, there's something to make you a better comedian. And I've had that happen. Like I did a show in Pittsburgh where it's like a 30-minute set, and in like 6 minutes, I know this is all going south. And now I'm kind of shaken. It's just nothing's working. They don't like me. They decided through probably my own fault that there was something about me they didn't dig and they weren't going to like it. And at that point, I'm like, well, what can I still do here? And it's to kind of embrace that horror, that feeling of lack of a way to better put it. It's like when you're talking in front of people and you start getting the butterflies in your stomach, or you start feeling that nervousness. It's like you're hanging out there. You thought there'd be a laugh and there isn't, and you're just dying. I try to embrace that feeling because the sooner you do, the sooner you can become desensitized to it and be a little bit more dead inside when it comes to that. So when it's going shitty and I know I've got 10 or 15 minutes, I'm still doing my best, but I'll actually take and stop and not say anything and make eye contact with everybody in the room for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, because as torturous as it feels, it gets easier. That way, the next time you're at a show that you are doing good and something happens, you're less rattled because you kind of flex those muscles when you're in a position to not do anything else. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just how I think about it.
No, it does. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, not the same thing, but last Tuesday I went to Frederick and did a set. And then, this past Tuesday I went back to Frederick, and I saw the same lady in the crowd from the last show, and she laughed at my jokes. And I was like, okay. Tonight,
Got a fan.
No pressure. I could just go up and do my normal shit because this lady knows me. And I bombed 2 jokes in a row and then just walked off the stage. So it's kind of like, I think I set myself up for failure.
Yeah.
What were you feeling in that moment that made you walk off? You just felt like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. Like you couldn't recover. What was the situation?
Yeah, I mean, after the second joke didn't land, I'm still very much so. I mean, I've only been doing it since the summer. My mind kind of just shut off. It was like, okay, Travis, no more ideas, no more. We actually have nothing. Hand the microphone back and get back to your seat.
Dude, here's my thought on that, and I get it. I mean, I've been there. I've felt that way. And I've left the stage before I was done. I mean, once you get to that place where you don't feel like you have something to add, why be there? The way I try to look at it is, if it's an audience that's paying to be there, then my obligation is to them. Like they paid to be there. If I've booked to do a 15-minute set or a 20 or a 30 or a 45-minute set, I'm going to be up there for the time. I might look at my watch or have something buzzing to give me the heads up, but I'm going to fulfill the obligation because I like to think myself as a professional, and that's what I was hired to do. Open mic is completely different. In an open mic situation, those people sitting there are a tool for me to use. My only obligation is to myself. I'm there on my own dime to try to get better. And I've had times where it's like, if I get 5 minutes, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go up, and it's been, I don't know, let's say 2 minutes, and I'm out of material. I'm not going to just stand there and say, well, I'm going to wait here till the last 3 minutes are up. But I am going to take a breath and just say, okay, well, give me a minute here. I got 3 more minutes. I'm going to spend the next 30, 40 seconds coming up with what else I want to talk about or try. And if I don't think of anything, like, this is my time. I drove here. My payment is my 5 minutes. And, it's like, all due respect to everybody in the room, you'll hear, well, you don't want to mess up the mic or this or that. Like, go fuck yourself. I drove here. I will take my 5 minutes. And if I'm standing here just staring off or coming up with what I want to do, like, it's my time. That's why I came. And I feel that way very much about the other people that are up there. If you're there and you have 30 seconds and then for the next 4.5 minutes, you're kind of fumbling around or just thinking or trying to do something, like, I don't have to be entertained. Your job isn't to entertain me. It's to figure it out for yourself. And so my advice to that would be when you feel like you're shutting down, man, just stand there anyway, because something's going to come to you. Talk about how it's like, man, I'm just going to walk off the fucking stage right now. You know what? I want to, but I'm not going to. I don't know why. Like, you start saying that type of stuff, it is so honest. And I feel like a lot of the comedians that I run into, and probably in general, they have a hard time getting to the honest part. It's like, well, this will make me sound cool, or this is something I could say that's funny, but it's like, is it about you? Like, make it about you. It reminds me how all the wrestlers wanted to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, but there's some guys that aren't built like that. Some guys aren't going to play that part. And, then there's guys like, I'll give you an example, The Freak. Like, I've never had an issue with Stanley. He's a nice guy. But he wasn't Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he never was gonna be. But what he did do is take what he brought to the table and I thought made the most of it. And then he got work. And I think that's part of just trying to like tap into who you actually are. And I don't know, after school special, who you are to for is pretty special.
Man, what an inspirational message.
I kind of got a question for both of you. So, like in these open mic situations, are you coming to the stage with a set list of jokes, like you've already gotten?
Yeah, what do you do,
for this,
Tate,
or are you
spitballing?
like you just coming up with stuff?
Well,
that's what I'd like to know.
A lot of times, like I spent a lot of time riding up with my buddy Zach, Mr. C. We spent a lot of time in the car together, and we would be bouncing shit off of each other. I was always not always, but for a lot of my life, I've had a job where like I was in management, like maybe I was doing retail, and like it was Radio Shack or the music store, or Spencer's, or I own a comic book shop, and now I own a pizza shop. It's like you have this opportunity where you have people coming up to you to buy their stuff. And as long as you can be outgoing with them and like, good customer service, if I had an idea or a joke or something happened to me, I would start telling people in line, like when they come up, oh, hey, this like as just conversation. And especially like Spencer's, where you can pretty much say whatever you want because it's just the nature of the store. I would have something that would happen. I would try to think of a way to make it funnier. And then when somebody came up to buy something, I'd be like, oh, you guys should have been here 10 minutes ago. This dude came in, and then I'll tell the story. And, especially like in the fall and the Christmas season stuff, there were times where I could tell one joke 100 times in a day and just completely refine it to where it's like, I told this joke 100 times in a way on stage because I'm telling it to strangers. And you'd see what people react to and what people don't react to. I would say, well, get in front of crowds and try to pitch your jokes to see what works and what doesn't. There's something to be said about telling a joke 50 times to 50 different people or 50 different couples, because you're going to see what works and what doesn't, and you're going to mold it quickly.
And how many times are you doing this in front of your wife?
Oh yeah, she's definitely heard it, plenty of it, and she does some crazy shit too. So a lot of it works because she's in the mix. But no, I mean nowadays, I'll tell you, I got this really cool book. It's called The Comedy Bible. It's by a girl named Judy Carter. If you get a chance to check that out, man, it is so good. There's like a workbook that comes with it. She has these exercises, and it's like an A to Z way of writing and saving your stuff. And in it, she mentioned that Jerry Seinfeld did this thing where when he first started, he would write 20 minutes a day, every day. And he put a big red X on this calendar he had each time he wrote 20 minutes. And it's not about it being funny. It's about writing. Even if you're just writing that you don't have anything to write about, you can't be critical of what it is. You just have to, it's the act of doing it. So he did it every day for about, I think she said something like 3 weeks or a month. Then he missed a day and he couldn't put that X on the calendar. And he said he was never going to do that again. And he's written 20 minutes a day for the last 40 years. And I mean, and he's a billionaire. I'm not saying that the two things are mutually, related there, but my point, I guess, is that the more you're writing, the more I think you're going to have stuff. Because comedy, to me, the jokes, it's not quality, it's quantity. If you write 100 jokes, 10 of them are going to be really good, and one of them is going to be something you might be able to carry forever. So go write 1,000 jokes so that you have 10 jokes, because you're looking for a laugh every 12 to 15 seconds in a club. An open mic, maybe not so much. Or like a theater, they let you get away with that storytelling style a little more. But when you're trying to tell, when you're in a club, it's 12 to 15 seconds. You need 4 laughs a minute. If you got 5 minutes, you better be asking for 20 laughs and getting 75 to 80% of them. And I think to me that's where it's at. So anymore when I go to an open mic, I audio tape what I say. I'll go back and listen to it, and I'll write it down word for word, even if I'm saying like and or that kind of stuff. I still write it down. Then I go through and cross out every single word I don't need. Then I like refine it down so that the next time I go to try it, I've had it in my head. I mean, I've written it out, I've rewritten it, like it just sticks in my brain a little more. Then I can try a lie. Like I just an example. I had a joke that I was writing about. I was like, oh, my girlfriend in high school, she was kind of weird, and she did this thing where she like tried to grow like on her vagina. She tried to grow like a weird like pube thing, and I'm going through this whole thing. Well, then I sit there and write it down and count it all down. And so now like the joke is, my girlfriend in high school grew a handlebar mustache on her vagina. I called it her Yosemite clam. And that's like whatever, 12 or 13 words, and there's 2 jokes in it. Because when you say the first line, people laugh, and then when you come back and say, they're not expecting anything else.
No.
So 2 laughed in like 9 seconds out of 15 words. But originally that was like 3 paragraphs to get there. Yeah. And guys, I got to tell you, I get paranoid like I'm rambling. If I'm talking too much, please cut me off, okay?
No, not at all. I had a question to ask you about watching your tapes back. I know for me, like when I listen, like even when I watch a podcast back, I hear my voice and I cringe.
Yeah.
Do you have that issue where you watch yourself back and you just have that issue,
Yeah.
or you don't mind?
Yeah, I used to hate it, and I think I've gotten to the point now where I already assume I'm going to hate it. So anything less than hate is kind of a win, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's about where I'm at. Oh, go ahead.
Tate definitely, the way that he writes and everything, as we just heard, is, the advanced version. Now, I will tell you, Mike, that I'm at the beginning stages of that. Now, I feel like everybody needs to figure out their own way of writing, where you're going to write at. And man, I was trying the notepads on my phone, and for the longest time, I was like, man, I don't like this. I went out to Walmart, got a paper and pen.
Yeah.
And I've got like 10 pages written now, and I wasn't doing that on my phone. So
that's cool.
There's
man.
something
That's
special
cool.
about actually writing it by hand that makes it feel better. I find that like when I'm writing notes that I like, paper and pen or pencil better.
I'll tell you something that me and Danny Hux do, and me and Don John and Corey and I used to do a bit. And Travis, if you decide you want to do it, man, I'm on board. It's
Cocaine?
Great. What's that?
Cocaine?
Well, in addition to the cocaine, what I'm thinking is what we do is you come up with 10 premises, gags, or jokes a day. You number 1 to 10, and it's like it doesn't have to be a full joke. It just has to be 10 things. I mean, whatever. Like one, I put something about refrigerator magnets that are letters and numbers. I like that was one. But you write 10 premises or 10 ideas or 10 gags every day. Then you send them to the other person. The other person has to answer that and send them back. Then what we do is we look over each other's things and just comment on each one within reason, if it makes sense to. But what it does is it basically gets things churned. And if you knew, because again, it's not about the quality of it. It's about the fact that you stopped and did it. So if you write 1 to 10 and just write, 10 things, at least you did it. And then it's like, if you write them and I'm looking at your 10, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, what about this? Maybe you can do this. Maybe you can do that. And then it might get your brain moving. And if you don't, if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But it's still your idea, and we're bouncing back and forth. And in the same way, you're doing the same for me.
Well, please do invite me to that. I would love to be involved in that. And I just want to say, everybody, Tate Griffen will be if you want to see this funny man in person, Friday, November 25th, 8 p.m. is whenever the show starts at the Loft 29 in downtown Cumberland. What's going to be going on in this show?
Loft 129, man. That place is like a jazz club. It's cool as hell. Got a full bar, just a really great atmosphere. And we're running the last show of the year. We did an entire stand-up series there. We had, Mark Riccadonna and Bill Baronke and Sonia White. Just like some national touring headliners were in there. And this last one we're going to do is a full showcase. I think we have seven or eight stand-up comedians. And E.J. Edmonds from Morgantown, who's one of the funniest people I've ever met, he's on the show. Doug Slook and Harriet Riley from Pittsburgh are going to be there.
Nice.
Quite a lineup, quite an eclectic blend. Bobby Benavides, who's from down in southern West Virginia, he's coming up to do it. He had an album that came out.
I like the name Bobby. What?
I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong, but I believe it's Benavides. Benivides, Benavides, I believe. Yeah, I know. It's like meningitis, Bobby Meningitis, or I don't know. Flintstone
It's got to be a gimmick name.
Yeah, I don't know. But Corey Bush, I'm contractually obligated to let him be there. So there's that. You know, Corey.
Corey's been great. He's been my running mate going to these Frederick deals. So I've loved having Corey.
Was he really running though? I mean,
dude, I'm 6'5", man, and I don't walk slow. I can't, and he keeps up with me.
Does he? Is there like a snail trail or?
Like, we do walk in the bike lane too, which is very dangerous.
See, when I say mean things like that, like there's a snail trail on Corey, and then it takes a minute for you guys to react. That's when I'm like, this is why I didn't do any of those online streaming comedy shows. It's like, oh, did that just bomb? Do they think I'm a piece of shit for dogging Corey?
Well, also with the internet, you got to deal with delays too. So
yeah, Corey slept on my couch last night and rubbed his gross feet on my couch. So we're having people come in to clean that, mainly Corey. Yeah, I don't know why that pertains to anything, but
no, I totally get it. The last time he stayed over here a couple years ago, he got too drunk and all that and fell asleep on my couch, and we had to get a new couch.
Did you hear about him puking in Edwin's new car?
No.
Oh, really? That's a good one. You ought to ask about that. He was at the Elite Pro Christmas party. He leaves because the booze were free because we're class fucking acts. And he goes to leave and gets all shit hammered, gets in the back of Jake Edwards' brand new car and just Ralphs all over it. Yeah, whole car needs to be detailed. Jake is a fucking a saint.
I love Jake. Love Jake. So, dude, let's talk about your comic book, man. There's not very many people I know that are doing as much as you are, man. I can't even imagine having like making a comic book. Like, there's so many names. Why is there so many names on the front? Is there 10 guys that worked on this?
You know what it was? I guess boy, I was doing comics and I did one in 94, 97, 2000, 2002, and 2004. And then I didn't do it for about 20 years. And I just had been collecting all the stuff that we did over the pandemic. And all this work that I've been doing over 3 years, and I put enough of it together. I was like, man, there's almost enough here to do a comic. So I called some of my friends that were into comics or had done some illustration and stuff, and written some stories, and they all kind of threw in. And yeah, it's just friends of mine, and they all pitched in somewhere between 2 and 6 pages a piece. And so I guess the book, about half of it's me, and the other half is divided amongst my friends. And yeah, we printed it up. It was cool. Sean Henry, who's one of my absolute closest friends, he and I did a book together 20 years ago, and this was the first time we got to do something again. So he's in that. It was really neat. Yeah.
So let's just say Hodge Podge Halloween Hodge Podge. It takes off. People are buying it left and right. Which company are you going to sell the rights to for the movie? Is it going to be a Disney Plus?
I'm a shameless self-promoter and a money-grubbing son of a bitch. So honestly, it'll probably be whoever shows up first. It really won't matter, dude. Like, it really won't matter. Like,
coming to HBO Max.
Yeah, if the DeFore brand wants to send me, I don't know, one of those booklets where you get chicken nuggets once a month, like, you can have it. It's not because it's not good. It's because like I said, I don't
deal.
Value.
We'll buy. We'll drop the contract.
Like, best thing that ever happened in my life was everything going digital. It's like CDs, I'd buy them and listen to them and wouldn't put them away or throw them away. Like just VHS tapes never found their way back into the cases.
Oh, yeah. DVDs just laying out everywhere.
It's my problem, but I just don't give a shit. And so the idea that now I have everything I buy because I don't physically hold it. Somebody's like, yeah, but what happens when I come along and want to take it back? I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, I'd like to think at this stage of the game, there isn't a movie I need to see 700 more times. Like, when I was a teenager, it's like, oh, I saw Friday the 13th Part 6 like 30 times. I don't fucking need to see it again, man.
I used to be obsessed. with collecting DVDs and Blu-rays back in the day, VHS and all that stuff. Like I felt like it was my mission in life to have every single movie on record, like as a personal library in my house. And I don't know why. A lot of people were like that, big movie collections.
Let me tell you, when I was 18 years old, I got a job 2 blocks from my parents' house running a video store, Video Express. When this place was ready to go out of business, I got a personal loan and bought up all the horror, all the wrestling. I mean, I had it all, man. And over the years, like it piecemealed out and this and that. You guys familiar with Dr. Douglas Crane, the manager? He's my oldest friend, and I mean, he probably has, I don't know, 10 to 15,000 movies between VHS and DVD. I mean, he's into it. And there was a time that I was too. I just, I'm not criticizing anybody that's into collecting. I collect a lot of stuff, but it got to a place where I was like, got to start picking and choosing here. And
I couldn't agree more. Now, what Halloween Hodge Podge? What is this about?
It's literally a hodgepodge. Like it's just an anthology, like a collection.
Sure.
So basically, yeah, like I did. I'm not good with commitment on that stuff. If I said, "Oh, I'm going to write this epic trade paperback," it would never come out. A graphic novel's never coming out. So like that picture on the front, like that is a 3-page story at the beginning. Then about the scarecrow, it's a 3-page story. Then I did 3 more 2-page stories. And then I had 2 1-page stories. Like I need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I need to do it and get it out of the way before I'm bored with it, and move on to the next thing. So
is there a different artist per?
Okay.
Is there a different artist? So there's like a bunch of people's names on the front.
So like the book's I think 32 or 34 pages long, and so 16 or 18 of those pages are my stories, like a 3-page story, then a 2-page, then a 2-page, then a 1-page, then a 3-page. My friend Sean Henry did a story in there. He did a 5-page story, and then let's see here. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember everybody that was in it. Teresa Logan from Pittsburgh. She did 2 1-page little comic book stories, so they're in there. Then I had folks that just did pinups, like 1-page splash pages and things like that. So it's literally just a hodgepodge, like a mashup of everybody's stuff.
Yeah, whenever I saw it, whenever I saw you first advertise it, I was like a little like taken back because I've been drawing, since I was maybe 7, 8 years old. I'm a very talented artist, and I was like, man, he never asks me to collaborate with him with the comic books.
Dude, I didn't even know that. How was that possible?
Because it's not true.
Oh. Wow, dude, I like walked right into that. That was impressive. That's good. Because it's not true.
I do have a joke about being colorblind as well, so I don't think I would ever be able to help you with something like this. Did you make the cover?
Yeah, I did it all. I mean, I produced the book.
Wow, this was all you? Nice.
Yeah, the cover's mine. The ghost bear is based on I did a web comic called Barry's Bad Day on Instagram, and it was out for, I guess, about 6 months. And it was almost every day, 5 days a week. So I collected, it was just a 1-panel gag strip, and I collected all 6 months of that in this book. Then the character at the bottom is from this crazy coffee cafe. And that's like a 2-page little story. The top circled thing with the mummy there, that's my buddy Sean Henry's story that's in there. Yep.
Now, whenever the internet first became a thing, were you the kind of guy who was looking up the comics online?
Like web comics and things?
Yeah.
I always did. I don't know if you ever find this with wrestling or comedy, but like when it came to the web comics, I would like be stoked because I'd want to do one and upload it. I was always kind of challenged when it came to the technology stuff of getting things uploaded. I wasn't good at any of that. I'm still not really good at any of that. And so that part kind of sucked. But I would try to look for other people's comics, and I would immediately get intimidated by how good they were. And it would just almost turn me off. Like, I'm not gonna. This person's really good, and I fell into that trap a lot. I mean, keeping in mind the dawn of the internet, the big web comic was called Penny Arcade. That was the first one that really, and at least in my view, landed. And it was just like, man, I was knee deep in marriage and little children and poverty and trying to make ends meet. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So I wasn't in a position where it was kind of, I had the time to really indulge in it, or to be honest with you, the discipline or the willpower to follow through. I mean, when the internet landed in that way, I guess that was probably around 97, 98, 99. I mean, God, I was, do the math there. I was like 20, 21. Oh, wow. Yeah, I was about 20 years old when I graduated high school in 1995. There was like one nerdy ass kid that was talking about the internet, but it was still just typing words and somebody that you can't see answering in texts back and forth on computer. And it was just like, yeah, this is stupid.
I had a buddy, his dad was in construction. They had a lot of money, and he was my first friend who had a computer. And he told me, he was like, dude, come over to the house, check out the computer. And I was like, of course. And he said, you can talk to Stone Cold Steve Austin on the computer. And I totally believed him. We went to the WWF chat room. Nice. There was a bot named Stone Cold talking to you. And I felt like, I don't know, man. I was talking to a celebrity for the first time. It was weird.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, the internet was more magical back then.
It was.
Yeah, it's like we all take it for granted. I was sitting in Pittsburgh one time. My wife was taking a class, and so I'm just sitting there waiting for her. And I was listening to the Stone Cold podcast, and he was talking to Tommy Dreamer, and Dreamer's telling some story about I hate to get stumped like that. The guy that, do you remember who was the guy that, Matt Stryker, the guy that was a teacher and then started wrestling, Matt Stryker. So he's like, oh, this guy did this thing. I don't remember the story, but it's something shitty. And Stone Cold's like, well, don't say who it was. He goes, I'm not going to say that it was Matt Stryker, but it was Matt Stryker. And Stone Cold's like, oh, Tommy, you're such a piece of shit. And about that time, my phone rings. And I look, and it's Tommy Dreamer. We'd had him booked for a show, so I answered the phone. I'm like, hello? He goes, hey, what's going on? I said, I'm just listening to this Stone Cold podcast. He goes, oh, is it my episode? I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, I shit on Matt Stryker album. It was pretty funny. And I was like, okay. Then he goes, listen to the rest of it. It's funny. And then he hung up. And it was just like one of those moments where you're like, didn't make me any money or anything, but it was just cool.
So I mean, that's pretty cool that you did like a Halloween themed deal for the comic book. Have you ever wanted to do like a wrestling one?
I had a couple ideas over the years for something that was wrestling themed. I actually had laid out a thing for a graphic novel about a guy whose father was a promoter and had tried to basically leave town at the end of the show with all the money. And when he left, he was in a car accident. He drove off the side of the road and was killed. And his son basically inherited the wrestling company, but he also inherited the shitty reputation because his father had run out on him. And so he's running this like basically fly by night wrestling company that's just hanging on the edge of bankruptcy.
This sounds excellent.
Yeah, well, and he's basically doing this thing where he's on the edge of bankruptcy and he's trying to like make it work, and he's doing everything he can to get it to go through, and he realizes it's just not going to happen. Well, then this guy, I think I named him, I want to say it was something like, let's just say the Superstar, and he's like the #1 guy at the top wrestling league in the world. He just got released and said basically he wants to go back to his roots. Well, there's this guy in the front row that always comes to this shitty little company, kind of like a House of Pain kind of flavor.
That's what I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this one guy that's always in the front row. He's always giving him shit. And he's had cancer. He's like a kid. He's got cancer, so they can't really give him shit because he's dying, but he gets on them. So this promoter, the guy whose dad had died, like this young promoter, he goes to the guy and goes, look, you're 14. They're going to give you a Make-A-Wish. Like, why don't you get Superstar to come and do this show? And he basically agrees. And so he like reaches out, and this guy Superstar shows up to do a show, which is going to raise all this money. And a few things happen where then at the end of it, because he's always regretted having to be a part of this wrestling company, this big payday comes in and he finds himself in the same spot where as his dad was, where he has all this money and he doesn't have to stay and he can just leave. And it kind of comes full circle. I spent about a year on it, writing it out and laying it out. And it ultimately got down to the point where I'm not a good enough artist to fully do it. Like, it wouldn't look the way I want it to look. And I'd like to think I could make it look that way, but I just don't have the time or the patience to stick with it. That's why I do 3-page stories, 2-page stories. I did it. It's done. And it doesn't have to see the light of day, but sooner or later I'll do enough of these that I can throw it all and call it a hodgepodge and release it.
So what the fuck are you calling the wrestling one? So I know what to call it.
I don't remember, to be honest.
It's not even a title.
No, I have a. I'll tell you what. Next time I see you, I'll show you. I got like a notebook of all the notes and things I've written on it. You're more than welcome to take a look.
Oh yeah.
Wrestling hodgepodge.
Yeah, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago that I was in a serious way looking at it. But that, like, I don't draw on paper anymore at all. I mean, I'll sit and doodle, but like everything's digital. I got the Huion Studio Pro 22-inch artist computer tablet. It's all in one, so you can just basically do everything that way. I've been doing that for like the last 3 years. So if you ever see a sketch online of mine, no, it's completely digital. And if I fucked it up, I backed up and went and fixed it 100 times.
Very nice, very nice.
So this Halloween Hodgepodge, is it a series that you're gonna be doing more of those as well?
I'd love to say yes, but I would definitely be lying. No, it was one of those things where I thought it was fun. We had a really good time. If you look on the inside, there's the copyright information. It's published by Low Pressure Publishing. Because anytime my buddies and I ever got this idea of like, oh, we're gonna release this and try to change the world, blah blah blah, make money, it never worked. So this was very much like a labor of love. Like I didn't expect to make money from it. I just wanted to do it, and it was so much fun. We're planning on doing a Halloween Hodgepodge 2023. Like we're just going to do one once a year, and because that book represents about 2 years of me working on stuff. Like 6 months of a web comic that came out 5 days a week is all collected in there. I mean, that takes up some space.
Where do you get it?
What's that? The comic?
Yeah. Where can people download this online or buy it online?
I don't have a digital one, but yeah, you can get it from me. I mean, I'll send you the link, but you basically click on it and they'll send it to you. It's free shipping and everything. It's like $6 a copy.
So this is very old school. You're not going through Amazon distribution or nothing like that.
No. Hey, you're my dog.
Yeah, those are beautiful dogs. What kind of dogs you got?
Charlotte. She's a Chorky, Chihuahua and Yorkie, and
the Paris Hilton dog. All right.
Paris Hilton dog.
I like small dogs and small cars.
I'm a fan of small dogs myself.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to get Halloween Hodgepodge, you'll have to can they message your comedy page too?
Yeah, that's the easiest way. If they do that, I mean, I got the copies and I have them all. I have a stack of them. And everything I do, like I did this on the inside of my album, and I do it and did it in the comic. And that is, I leave a blank page. So if you bump into me, I'll sketch something out for you, like on the spot.
Yeah. So get in touch with Tate on social media. And
no, but I want to make this clear too. On our like analytics, we have a growing fan base in Lithuania. Like I want to make sure they're able to get
Lithuania.
a comic.
I appreciate that. No, I really do.
Do you ship to Lithuania?
If the order is big enough, so the answer is no.
A single. They want one single copy.
Yeah, I mean it's $6 for the book, $47 for the shipping. I mean, yeah, yeah. But if you know, we just like I said, a labor of love. If somebody wants a copy, they just message me, and I mean, you'll get a copy. You PayPal me $6 or $7. I will sign it, bag it, put it in an envelope, and mail it to you from my house.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so me and Mike, we are wrestling guys. At the end of the day, we love pro wrestling. We grew up on it. I spent some time in the biz. Mike,
more the older stuff than the current stuff, honestly. But yeah, I'm still into.
I'm with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and we're talking, lifelong here. So now is the time. I want to change directions. We're going to talk some wrestling. Is that okay, Tate?
Yeah, of course. Travis, I got to say before you say anything, man, I always had a lot of respect for what you did. You know, anybody that's listening, you said we've known each other about 15 years. I mean, it's probably getting closer to, I guess you're right, 2006, 2005, I think is when I met you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember you being at CPW. And it was like, you know, you were a young guy and there was guys that were bigger and older than you were, but you showed up and still did it. And so many guys, you know, would either wuss out or bail out or whatever, and you were just all about it, and that was great. And then I would see you over the years in different locker rooms and stuff, and you always had something cooking. You're always trying to make something happen. I mean, that's good stuff, man, because it's rare. A lot of guys stand around and just want to be the superstar in their own little bubble, and I thought that I thought that you stood apart from those guys, and that's cool. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I really appreciate that, man. And I just had, it's just crazy, man, because I had my retirement match a month ago, and whenever you have a retirement match, I don't know if you had like a real one, like a real one, but like
I had 17. I had 17 of them.
Oh,
doesn't every wrestler though? I mean, that's
yeah.
No, but whenever you do something like that, you kind of see the brotherhood in pro wrestling, you know. And likewise, man, I had respect for you from day one too, because you weren't one of the guys who fucking hazed me, man. And there was a lot. I had to fish through a good bit of just big dumb assholes that just shouldn't have been in the business in the first place.
Yeah, I fucking hate that stuff. There was guys that would do that, and it was always funny because it always happened when we weren't around. You know, not to say that we were the police to do something about it, but I know there was more than a few locker rooms where me and my brother Jake, it's like if we weren't there, oh, then that shit might happen, but it wouldn't happen if we'd been standing there. It's like I you know, wrestling already, it's like they trade you your dreams for money. You know, it's like you everybody just wants to do this. And then when you have those guys that will try to take advantage of the young guys or the smaller guys or the guys that don't, it's like everybody's supposed to show respect, but it's like you try to exploit or manipulate the fact that the young guy doesn't know what to do. It's like, well, you didn't know what to do. Yeah. And yeah, that always rubbed me the wrong way. Like my biggest pet peeve in pro wrestling are the guys that will kiss the ass of the people they perceive to be above them and shit on the people they perceive to be below them. Like I hate that.
You'd see that so much too back in the day.
Yeah.
Not so much now, though. I mean, you still run the Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance and all that, and
yeah.
I've always known your locker room to not have any egos in it, though.
Oh, they're there. They just probably check them, you know.
Yeah.
I think all those guys, those guys definitely have egos. But
well,
yeah,
I mean, to do that, to go out in front of a lot of people, you know, in the ring like that, I think you have to have some sort of an ego to start with. Like there has to be some healthy dose of an ego there,
sure,
or else you wouldn't have the courage to do all that.
Sure,
like,
no, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Confidence, rather, not the courage. Confidence is the word I was looking for. But
yeah, but it's so funny too because it's like how many of those guys were just these insecure assholes? You know, it's like, oh, you weren't smart enough to graduate and be a cop, so this was the way you were gonna like be like, you know, shoving people around and being you know, a dick.
They were gonna be a bully somehow.
I get those vibes off of CM Punk so bad. Like he was probably the nerdiest, just nerd in school.
Yeah.
You turn into an adult and you get that chip on your shoulder. You let it drive you. There's plenty of guys like that in wrestling.
Yeah. It's funny. I haven't been in a locker room to speak of that's not my own where I was wrestling. And I mean, I could be mistaken, but I mean, I'm going to say at least 5 years. And obviously, my own locker room, I tend to think, well, you act a little different around the boss. Like, I don't think I'm getting the accurate vibe of what's going on in the room when I'm not there, because whatever it is, it probably changes at least a little bit when I am there, because every locker room I was ever in, when the boss walked in, it changes a little bit. No, that's not even a bad thing. It's a natural thing, you know? And so it's funny. It's like trying to just keep tabs on it. Everybody's happy. Everybody's good because, you know.
As far as you know, these guys aren't behind your back saying, fuck this guy, man. Like, I mean, last time I'm coming out here.
Yeah. That's usually me saying that in the mirror after one of these shows.
Oh, God. But,
so when did you actually get started? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Was that, buddy? I'm sorry.
I was going to ask when you actually got started in the wrestling business. Like,
me and Jake and Leslie Leatherman signed up in I want to say it was March of 1998.
98.
And 90. I hate to say that, 98 or 99. I don't recall which one, but yeah, we signed up and down at the House of Pain.
Yeah, and was it just something you had dreamed of doing since you were a kid, or what was the situation?
Yeah, it was just something that we always wanted to do, and just went down and just decided we were going to do it. It was in Hagerstown. It was about an hour and a half from our house, and we'd go down on Tuesdays. I remember that first like month and a half, it being like kind of intimidating because, you know, there's still kind of an old guard there. There was a lot of guys that had been there for a while. But I remember going down and like the second or third time we went down on a Tuesday night for a show, like head shrinker Samu's like sitting in the front office, just hanging out, like things like that. I remember like the first or second NWL show that we got to be a part of. It's like when we got there, we're on the show, and the locker room had like Samu was there, the Rock and Roll Express was there, King Kong Bundy was there, Honky Tonk Man was there, you know, Superflex Jimmy Snuka was there, and you're looking around and it's just like, what is happening? Like we must have stumbled onto something because I'm standing by these guys. And I remember, do you remember Scott Fowler?
Oh yeah,
he signed up maybe a week before we did, so we were very much the same class. And I remember the first show, the first NWL show that we had. Like again, my memory could be wrong, but I want to say we'd only been there for like a month or so. And we did a show in like in Hagerstown, I think, North Hagerstown High School maybe. And the Doc was wrestling Gilbert, and
Gilbert.
he beat him. Yeah, he like Doc got disqualified. Scott Fowler got disqualified. At the time, Gilbert was the WWF light heavyweight champion. Wow. And I remember being at the show and peeking through the curtain and seeing this guy that signed up when I did, walking back a month after sign up, holding the WWF light heavyweight title over him. Like it was like he took it. But it was like, what is going on here? And yeah, it's crazy times, man. It was like intoxicating.
Scott Fowler, that name sounds familiar. Did we interview him, Travis?
And the match that I took a Doomsday device and was spiked off of the Doomsday device. Scott Fowler was the one who was giving me the clothesline, jumping off the top.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, so dude, me and Scott, we got a good relationship, man. We go way back too.
Oh, okay, so that's good. He didn't like you said spiked. I thought like you landed on your head.
Oh no, I did. Yeah, Buddha was there. Buddha actually threw the X up. They thought I was like fucked up,
paralyzed.
Yeah, and I didn't move, because I was selling it, So.
Oh geez. Well, I'm glad you're okay. It's good that you guys have a good relationship. I haven't talked to him in probably 15 years.
No, it's been a long time. Once he got out of the business, I feel like he stopped talking to a lot of guys.
Oh, I didn't even know he was out of wrestling. He doesn't do it anymore.
No.
Wow, this sounds like a conversation we gotta have later.
No, but dude, there's a lot of great guys from back then too. Like Scott Fowler, everybody deserves their credit too. I mean, this guy wrestled Vito on SmackDown. I mean, he did a lot in the business as well. You come from a big class right there. I mean, so when was the first time you found yourself in the ring with like a name? Because you're seeing Fowler a month later. I mean, when did you get your chance?
I got my ass kicked with Scott Fowler against Rambo and Sambo.
Okay.
At the House of Pain. Yeah, just I mean, it wasn't anything that wasn't safe, but it was a beatdown. Yeah. That was probably man, I mean, we're talking 23, 24 years ago. I want to say it was 2 or 3 months in. Something like that.
And you were always traveling from so are you like a Cumberland native out there?
Yeah, from Cumberland. Yeah, I live in Ellerslie now, which is outside of town. But yeah, so we were driving up there on Tuesday nights to do the show. And you never knew what the show was going to be, which that kind of fucked with my anxiety because I like the idea of knowing what's going on. And especially when you're early on, you're not good enough or being figured in enough to even have like a storyline. So it's just going down. I don't know what's going to happen. And some people didn't mind that at all. I'd like to know what I'm doing before I get there.
Yeah,
that would be nice. So the brother dynamic too, signing up for wrestling training with your brother. What was that like? Was it his idea, your idea?
I think we were both pretty pumped about it. I think we both wanted to do it.
Who saw it first?
I'm sorry?
Like, was one of you like, oh, I've heard about this thing, and then tells the other one, or
no? We talked about it because we had talked about it since we were kids, just like wanting to wrestle and all that stuff, and just roughhousing, that kind of stuff. And when the NWO would come to Kaiser at Potomac State College, we would go there to the shows, and it was like once we were old enough, because we'd been going to shows since we were 15 or 16. once we were old enough, it was like, we got to sign up. And it was just kind of almost like a foregone conclusion that that's something we really wanted to do. And I just went down and
So
signed up.
had you seen Neil Superior wrestle then?
Yeah, oh yeah, I got to see him wrestle, I don't know, probably a half a dozen times. I saw, I can't, I don't want to say for certain that I remember anybody specific that he wrestled, but like I was at Potomac State College when he was there with like Bam Bam Bigelow would come in, or Nikolai Volkov came in, Tugboat Thomas, Matt Bourne is Doink, the Head Shrinkers. Like they would have those guys come in and he was on the show. And then when he passed away, John Rambo came from Portland, Oregon, and then he kind of took over the school.
How did you hear about Neil's death?
I wasn't, I mean, it's nothing against Neil. He was on the card. And as a kid, like being 15, 16, 17 years old, I think he passed away when I was 17. I had seen him wrestle a handful of times. There was no internet. Like I didn't know that to be honest with you, I didn't even know he passed away. It wasn't until years later that I even knew he was Dick Karakoff's son. So I didn't know, I just knew John had taken over, and I didn't know anything past that. But it was an interesting time.
So what was your conversations like with John, first coming in? What was the expectations? Did you have to pay a bunch of money? Like what's going on with that?
Yeah, it was, we went down, and as I recall, it was, I want to say it was $2,000 a person, but since we were going in it was me and my brother and Brian Leatherman, Leslie Leatherman. I want to say it was like $1,500 because it was three of us, and we kind of had each other's back on all that going in. I weighed about 120 pounds less than I weigh now, and actually that's more than that. It's like 150 pounds less than I weigh now. My brother, he's a bit of a scrapper. He knows what he's doing, and most people knew that. When we got down there, within the first or second week that we started, John had this shoot fight tournament, which was 100% legit from the neck down, and you couldn't bleed or it would be stopped. But it was whoever tapped somebody out first won and moved on to the next round. Well, that was a godsend for us because he put Jake in the tournament. Well, Jake tapped everybody in the school. Like he tapped everybody and won, and then never got beat ever. And so it was like, okay, when you tap out everybody and you're doing these matches every week. So in the first 2-3 months we're there, he's tapped out everybody in school and we're with him. You know what I mean? It was like an immediate, like you had an elevation, even if it was just like by proxy.
Yeah. I guess you don't fuck with that guy.
Well, and you know him. I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, he's a great guy. But like, he tapped everybody out there. And I'll tell you right now, this is about as controversial as I'll get. If there's anybody that says any fucking different from that 1998, 99, 2000 era, they're full of shit, because I was there. He tapped everybody out without exception. No one beat him. And he's not going to sit here and say that, but I'll fucking say it. Because he did. And I just remember thinking, like, okay, like, it's not like I tapped it. I wasn't in the tournament, but I'm with him. I probably started writing checks that, my mouth started writing checks that I didn't have to worry about cashing.
Which is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being facetious, but you get it.
Now, I didn't discover the House of Pain until late 2002. And whenever I went to those shows, I saw Leslie Leatherman, Jake Davis, wrestling on these shows, Tate's brother. But I never saw you whenever I was a kid, from about 2002 to 2005.
Yeah.
Now, by the time I signed up for training, you were already at Championship Pro Wrestling under Shane Shadows, that promoter.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, where were you during those years?
In 2000, in June of 2000, we had our son, and that was at the point there where, like, I was working full time, and it was no longer feasible to plan around pro wrestling when we're trying to make ends meet, and the birth of one Reggie Collins came about. So I had a conversation with John, and to his credit, he was completely understanding. There's a million guys that would have a problem with how things go, but there's a million guys that just bail out or don't do things professionally. Like as I remembered, I drove down there and told him in person. Like I didn't send him a message. Again, the internet being in its infancy, but like I drove down there and told him, hey, this is what's going on. And my wife's 9 months pregnant, like I have her son, like I this is what I need to do now. And he was very cool about it, very respectful to my face about it. And then when he was born, he made a post on the website congratulating me and saying all this. And it was kind of easy to drift away from that because when Max was Reggie Collins, when he was born, and then a year and 1 day later, our daughter was born. So I was knee deep in it, and you're in that bubble for 5 years or so, and it wasn't until about 2005 or 2006 that I was saying something to Jake and Brian about like, oh, I want to get back into this, and I'm trying to come up with this different gimmick. I get this different idea, and at that point, they had left the House of Pain, and they were working for CPW and Shane Shadows, and they were saying, it's like, hey, we'll introduce you to Shane. He's a really good guy. They're doing a lot of things that are pretty neat. Like, 2005, 2006, they had an online web show. Remember that CPW Showdown?
Yeah, I was featured on it tons. Yeah, you too.
Yeah, it had like a running commentary. They had commercials. They had the graphics and
interviews.
I thought it was awesome.
Ahead of their time, huh?
They really were. I always thought that it was a really nice set of training wheels that if you were trying to be a wrestler on TV, when you got there, they had you show up early. They had you cut promos beforehand. They had you do your match. They cut promos afterwards. They mixed it down. I always felt like they did a pretty decent job of taking the best promos or the best matches and using those for the show. Maybe that's not the way it always was, but it seemed to me like it felt to me like if you worked harder, you had a better chance of being on the show. And I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really, really cool.
And not many promotions, even in 2022, have anything like Showdown.
On a regular basis.
Which is sad.
I'm sure there are, but I don't know who. Shane, they were running every month. Every 3 to 4 weeks they're running, and then it seemed like it was about that much time, and they were cranking out an episode every couple of weeks. And it was just exciting to be on.
Let's go ahead and talk about your son, man, because we just mentioned him. That was a beautiful story there. Reggie Collins, the slice of nice. Did you think of the slice of nice for him?
No, he's come up with all that, man. That's nice. All of him. Yeah, the slice of nice. That's Reginald. Yeah, he came up with the Regilution, and show you what a go-getter is. You got it. I remember he's getting a package in the mail. I look at it's like an international lawyer. Some of his thing, he's got his international copyright. Like, oh yeah, somebody in Indonesia tried to say Regilution. We sent him a cease and desist letter.
Wow.
Yeah, but he lives and breathes it, man.
Yeah, no, you could tell that. You could tell that from the day that you meet the kid. Did he catch the bug quick? Was he into wrestling immediately?
Yeah, I think he was coming to those shows, those CPW shows, the Fire Hall, like he saw those. We started the Elite Pro Training Center in 2009. So he was 9 years old when I now owned a ring and a place for it to be. So he has been in the ring one way or another since he was 9. And then being around all the guys and stuff, like he has pictures of him, being 10 years old and sitting there playing Matchbox Stars with Rhino or Tommy Dreamer or
Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, so that was cool. Like he has a whole book of things like him and like Terry Funk and Ric Flair and, all those guys that came to Kaiser and stuff. So, yeah, it's neat because he's always been in the ring. It's kind of like fish in water, but then also he's been around those guys enough that it wasn't oh my God, there's this guy or that guy. It wasn't really starstruck.
Let's play a game with Mike here real quick. So Tate's son, Reggie Collins, was actually featured on AEW. Can you guess the AEW wrestler that wrestled Tate's son?
Danhausen.
No, this one is a very tall, very muscular.
Very
help?
tall, very muscular. Luchasaurus?
You're close. Similar
sizes.
sizes.
Similar sizes. Who's
this
the guy
was big in Japan?
Big in Japan. Well, that doesn't help me. I'm not a huge fan of Japan wrestling. Not that it's not good. I just don't follow it.
Do we give the obvious clue? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's managed by Jake the Snake Roberts.
Lance Archer.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him anyway? He was like a big deal for a while in AEW, and I haven't seen
somebody
him.
said he got injured. Didn't he get a neck injury?
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
He spiked himself. No, but Mike, come on, we have to be honest.
The
with
Murder
Hawk. That's a lot of the guys in AEW, though. But
it really is though. There's so many guys. They huge debut, all the pomp and circumstance, and then weeks later, gone.
Just time rolls on.
Yeah. Hey, dude, you got to be somebody really special like an MJF to make it. What do you think, Reggie Collins? Do you think he possesses it, man? Do you think he could go all the way?
Oh yeah, I fully expect that to be what happens.
Every time I see him about once a month. He looks bigger and bigger each time I see him.
Yeah,
it looks like he's prepping.
Yeah, he's got some pretty big opportunities that are coming up here for the end of the year, and some other big opportunities that are feeding into 2023. I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to really get up off any of that, but it's some really big opportunities. I think everybody's going to be pretty surprised.
That's awesome.
Or, maybe not. Most of the people that know him just figure it's an eventuality. So, we'll see. I told him as long as he stays healthy and stays focused and talks about something besides pro wrestling every once in a while. Fuck, it's like the only thing in the whole world.
I do think that a lot of the modern day wrestlers, if you mingle with them, talk to them, I think that they're just like Reggie. I think Reggie's going to be. I think he's in a good next wave of wrestlers.
Yeah,
and being an MCW helps.
Yeah. He's gone up there. Not recently, to be perfectly honest with you. It's been a lot of focus towards some big opportunities that he has coming up.
Wow. Well, I hope those pan out then. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
23.
23.
Just turned 23 this summer.
Yeah, he's got a.
It's not like I know that it wasn't that long ago. It was like once you hit 27, 28, if they haven't looked at you, they're not going to. But it seems like seems like there's a bigger window now, and he's so early on. He's getting bigger and just doing more and more things to try to get where he needs to be.
Now, have you enjoyed doing the father and son matches? You've done that a couple times now.
Yeah, we had the tag titles there. That was like 3 years ago.
Oh, I thought you meant against each other at one point. You mean tag titles? Okay.
Yeah. No, we were tag team. No, it's great because he goes in there and gets his ass kicked, and then at the end he tagged me in. I get to walk in there for a few minutes.
There you go.
I make a cameo appearance. Don't have to do too many bumps, but I'm definitely 100% done though. I'll never ever. The last few years that I was wrestling, again, he's out there taking the heat and tags me at the end, for the go home and shine or whatever. And it was it would take a couple of days. The next morning I'd get up and I'd feel like shit. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed or whatever. And I didn't do that much. It wasn't even whole matches. It was standing on the apron like a cheerleader until my moment to climb in the ring. And I just was I'm not going to do this. Well, then I want to say it was 2 years ago, I wrestled. Have you seen the guy Daniel Alexander Dabrowski, Dad?
Yeah.
DAD. So I'm booked to. He's out there doing this challenge, and he's going to wrestle me. Well, I do the Griffin thing. I put the mask on. It's like a surprise. So he's out there talking a bunch of shit, and then my music hits, and I come walking out in the whole gear and all the stuff. And it was the first time in my life I climbed in between the ropes, and when I stood up, I was like, "What in the fuck am I doing here? This is the biggest mistake ever!" My back hurts walking up these stairs and bending through those ropes to stand up, and now I still have to wrestle. And it was like a 3-minute squash, and I was like, as soon as I stood up and I was like, I have no fucking reason for being in here right now. That was the moment I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Your gimmick though, your gimmick is a very hook the fans kind of gimmick. Once they see the living nightmare Griffen, they can get invested immediately. Is it hard to give up that reaction?
No, you know what? It probably would have been harder if it wasn't for the fact that I own a wrestling company. And there's something about this idea that if I really had a hankering for like an ego stroke, I could come up with some reason to come back and do something.
Yeah.
You know, that probably makes it easier. I feel bad for the guys that I know need that or want that feeling that you're talking about more than I want it and don't have the outlet to get it. And I mean, I don't want to name any names, but you know, there's guys that are around a lot longer than they should be and a lot longer than they probably needed to be, even in the eyes of the fans. It was like they couldn't let it go because then they don't get to be that person anymore. And you know, I'd say I'm guilty of probably giving some of those guys opportunities just because I know what that feels like. And you know, but yeah, as far as missing out on it, I'm okay. I mean, I'm a glutton for attention. I get enough attention other ways.
We'll pull up your DVD cover here. You came out with a 2 Hours of Pain, Griffen the DVD. Is it still available?
I doubt it. I mean, that printed. I don't know how long. I came to see who's was I wrestled Kevin Nash and Tatanka.
Oh, you wrestled Kevin Nash? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Real quick, a fun story for Mike. So back in the day, during this time actually, that you wrestled Nash and all that, the person who ran the website for Covey Promotions was Mike.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. For a long time, actually, for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's just in a weird way, we're all connected, and it's so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrestled for Cody for a while, and then we had like I think we ran our first show, and he was there. I gave him tickets because we looked at it like a scouting thing. It was like, we're running a training center. We have 10 students. Let's put some matches on with them and then sell tickets just to kind of raise some money for the school. Well, it sold out. We sold 400 seats. And it was like, shit, okay, maybe there's some, you know, I don't think it was like, oh, we have the greatest card in the world. I think when you have 10 students that are all learning and they get to be in a match, they're going to get their families to come. Like, you know how it works. There's 10 people with built-in reasons to get people to show up. Well, it went really well, and we decided to run a second show. Well, when we announced the second show, Cody called me. Like, actually called me about 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, as I recall. It was like, you know, can't have me come in, can't have me be a part of it anymore because whatever, you know, we're running a show and it's not supposed to be that way. So I run a show, so I can't be on his show, and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I was in a feud with Tatanka. Like, I wrestled Tatanka, and he had beaten me for the belt, and I was going to beat him back for it. And then he saw that we advertised the second show and was like, "No, we can't be a part of it." And then he went on to tell people if they wrestled for me, he wouldn't use them anymore. Which, whatever. I mean, it's 20 years ago. Nobody even gives a shit. But that's just how I remember it going.
Yeah, and he was using one of my favorite things that he would do was use like state officials. He used like the magistrate of
Greg Miller. The magistrate Greg Miller. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Hey! I mean, my hats off to him for that. Like, you know, he did a thing one time I saw where he used like the high school football coach, put him in a 6-man tag. That's good shit right there. That's brilliant. Like, you can hide someone's inconsistencies in a 6-man tag, assuming the other 5 guys know what they're doing. And you're selling tickets that you would never sell to people that would never look at that product otherwise. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, I respect that.
That's true. That's true.
You know, but you know, where pro wrestling professionalism ends, that's where Carney begins, and you gotta make your money.
Did you ever get to wrestle a midget?
Bad Boy Buck. I was in the ring with him in a battle royal. Yeah. I one time told John I wanted to wrestle as Tate, the world's tallest midget. And then anytime we booked the midget, because remember how anytime they booked midgets, only one ever showed up? It's like, never Never failed. I never actually saw two midgets wrestle, except one time they're wrestling and they came walking to the back, and John said, "Man, those guys really you guys really went to town on each other. Next time we'll get some of those placeable tables. You got a hardcore match." I was like, "Wow."
Now, Mike, are you hearing that too?
Yeah.
Him going out.
Do you see the chat, by the way?
No.
So the match with Tatanka, that was at Covey Pro.
Yeah, at Morgantown. That match was about, as I remember, it was about 26 minutes long. It was the longest match I'd ever had. Wow. And it was the first time I had wrestled someone for that length of time that was actively listening to the crowd. Like, he was explaining to me what was happening and what was gonna happen. He's like, "Lay down, don't get up too fast. Okay, wait, now slowly start to feed up. Now you're going too fast. Slow down, listen to him. Listen, they'll rise as you rise." And it was like that type of education the whole time. He also chopped me 24 times. My chest was bleeding at the end. He goes, "Chop me as hard as you want." And I mean, I was lacing it. But his hand, he just had so much heavier hand. But he was super cool, super nice guy. I learned a ton from him.
That's
I
awesome.
only wrestled him that one time, but he was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you talk about some of the stuff at Covey Pro, because I had forgotten most of it, but now that you bring up some of this stuff, I remember writing the results and updating the pages for all this for these events and stuff like that. So it was just so long ago, but that was a good time.
Yeah, there was some really nice guys there.
I never actually got to see a show in person. That's my only.
Really?
No, I know I was too far to actually attend. Well, actually, that's not true, because I did attend a show in Cumberland, not Covey Pro, some other promotion, but.
Yeah. We did.
Now, real quick, so go ahead and give us the story. How does Griffen get booked in a match with Big Sexy Kevin Nash?
Yeah, really.
As I remember, Covey called me and said that he wanted me to wrestle Kevin Nash because he had booked him, and that I was the biggest guy on the roster at the time. And then he wanted to wrestle him too. So he made it. I mean, everybody books the way they book, but it doesn't always make a lot of sense. But he wanted it to be a triple threat. Like, but Nash is a face. Yeah. So Covey was a face, Nash was a face, and I was the heel. And I had Doug Crane as my manager. So, we wrestled a triple threat as Nash had put it together. And he was super nice, super cool guy. We wrestled the match, and then I remember Cody wanted to be the one that got pinned, so Cody got jackknifed and pinned. He's like the hometown hero. It was in Paw Paw at the high school. He's a hometown hero. He takes the jackknife powerbomb and gets pinned, and I get away. I don't know, whatever. It was fun, and it was interesting. He booked a few other people that I got to work with. I had a feud, a full-on feud. I wrestled him a half a dozen times. Axel Rotten.
Okay,
we wrestled one time at a fair. We're knocking shit over, people were trying to get in line to get on, so we're knocking garbage cans over, taking it all over the place. I got to
if Axel liked you, I feel like he'd do a good match with you.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely saw both sides of that coin, but I got the chance to work with Nick Densmore. He was doing the Eugene gimmick at CPW, or I'm sorry, at Covey Pro. He brought in, I remember him bringing in the Iron Sheik and just trying to goad him into doing that crazy shit he does. Yeah. I just, sometimes the decisions being made, I'm like, why? What is happening here? You really just pay this guy $2,000 to just come in and cuss in front of a bunch of children.
Now, you mentioned that the Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance has had a school long time, many years now. Yeah. Your first school that you had burned down, and I don't know that story. Are you willing to tell that story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we had rented out this it was like a big warehouse building, and we rented out half of it. Set the show up and everything, had everything going. Ran the first show, went to run the second show. Had Hacksaw Jim Duggan come in, who was super cool, great show. Sold it out. Planning for the third show, and then the other half of the warehouse was like a used furniture shop, and he had some old extension cord under it, caught on fire and burned the building down. Lost the ring and everything. The ring was built by some combination of Doug Gilbert and Eddie Gilbert, It was like an all wooden ring. So the whole thing burns to the ground. So the gentleman that owned the building had gotten an insurance settlement and agreed. He's like, look, I'll buy another ring. So I call High Spots to get a new ring. He completely remodels it. It's like now he's made this building. Like we had a locker room that was up with a window so we could look down on the crowd. Like we were getting everything set up. And about 2 weeks before our third show, which is the first time we brought Tommy Dreamer in, an arsonist burned the whole building down again.
An arsonist.
Yeah.
That is who the cops got involved.
Oh yeah, the cops got involved. He burned the whole place to the ground. We went in, and this brand new ring that had been sitting there for 4 days from High Spots was nothing but a shell.
Do you know who it was? Who was this arson?
No, they never found out. They did from what I was told, a rather extensive investigation and never got to the bottom of it. I never heard anything about who it was, or I decided really early on that I couldn't get bogged down with it. I mean, it sucked, but we had just set the ring, up and everything. Hadn't really even gotten a chance to get in it and move around. And I don't know, it sucked, but it was like, this is one of those moments where it's like, can we get really angry about it and then do nothing about it, or what's the next step? So Jake and I pulled together. We got a small loan, and we bought a third ring. Bought another ring from High Spots. Had it delivered to my house. Set it up in my backyard. Messed around it a little bit. Packed it up. Put it in my garage. And then 2 weeks later, ran a show and rented Potomac State College. Rescheduled the show. Brought Tommy Dreamer in and sold 375 tickets, which that was always a big moment for me because we had less than 2 weeks to tell everybody that was interested in this that building was gone, and we were running the show in Kaiser, which is a solid 30 minutes from where the original training center was, and the crowd followed us. And at that point, I was like, okay, like we can do this. And I don't really buy into fate or any of that shit. It's just not my jam. But I will say that happening made us more successful. Had that not happened, that room held about 300 people, 350 people. Mm-hmm. We never would have run a show that drew more, which means I never would have had the income from ticket sales to allow us to do more. And by that building, what happened sucked, but when it happened, now we were running at State College. We were running at high schools. We got an exclusive deal with Mineral County schools to where no other wrestling company runs in Mineral County but us, which is still true. And we put 1,300 people at Kaiser High School and brought in Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Chris Masters, Matt Hardy, Mickey James, Doc Gallows. It was Chris Masters. It was a monster show, and we sold that room out, 1,300 people. And I always look at it like, when we talk about wrestling, my brother is an infinitely better wrestler than I am. And
I do have
Did we lose Tate?
No, we didn't. My next question, Tate, is like the Kurt Angles and the Ric Flairs of the world that's come through there. Has there been somebody in like your childhood that you like really enjoyed watching as a child? Did you ever think about, just hitting them up? Because it's like, hey, I got this going. Bring them in. I want to meet them.
Hey, buddy, I'm sorry. I think I lost you here. Hold on, let me get back in here.
Yeah, he's completely frozen for me. He's been
you're just frozen. That's all. It's live television, bud.
We're out here.
Now. Oh, now it's black.
Oh.
We hear you though.
Hold on. There we go. I think we're back.
We have returned.
It says I'm backstage.
Okay.
Just we got your audio, just no video. And Travis, do you want to check your messenger for me? While he's doing that, I actually wanted to bring up a question in the chat, if you don't mind. Jen Davis was asking asking if you would tell a story about places you have traveled while on the road.
Oh, I'm sure I can do that. There we go.
Have you been in some weird places, man?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I missed the end of what you just said.
Yeah. So she was looking for a story about your time on the road, traveling to wrestling shows.
Oh my god. Let me think about that for a second. I feel like you probably heard a bunch of them. This one time we were staying in Pittsburgh, and the initial story was that we were going to have namely, we were supposed to be picked up in yellow Humvee limousines and staying in a 4-star hotel. And said we got it in school buses and stayed at a motel, and that was rough, memorable.
Hey, would you mind if we added somebody to the show?
Me?
Okay, well, that is going to be happening very shortly. We're just going to continue the show until the gentleman has a link to come in. He's just going to come in whenever he comes in. So it'll be.
Do I know this person?
Oh yeah, very well, very well, extremely well.
Want me taking care of that, Travis?
You were married for a while.
But now before he gets in here, fuck, what was that question I had? It was so good. Okay, no, yeah. So, you brought in Kurt Angle, Ric Flair, Terry Funk, all these names. Was there ever a name that, because you found yourself as a promoter, you were able to do these things? Was there somebody that you personally was a fan of that you were like, okay, I gotta fucking see if I can get this guy to come in?
That probably was Ric Flair.
Okay.
I mean, the idea of Ric Flair coming in there and like being able to say, boastfully say, I'm the promoter that brought Ric Flair to Kaiser, West Virginia. I mean, that's I don't know where you go from there. I mean, I know briefly Hulk Hogan was doing like the indie scene. I mean, very briefly after that, about 2 years after that show, which would have been around 2016, 2017. He was appearing like in malls for signings and doing indie shows, but the price tag was insane. That would have been pretty cool. Other than that, Reggie Collins has always been a huge fan of Ultimo Dragon, and I've tried on more than a few occasions to try to book him, and it's never quite lined up. I always thought that'd be neat. Outside of them, I feel like probably for the most part, I met or got to work with in one way or another everybody that I ever cared about. I mean, I got to, Bret Hart is my top guy. Like Bret Hart, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, those are like my guys. The only person that I really wanted to meet and didn't get to, there's two actually, it was Randy Savage and Roddy Piper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now entering the show.
Oh no! Yeah. McMasters.
Josh, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys?
What's up,
Welcome
buddy?
to the show.
Oh, thanks, man. It's
I feel so exposed now with my the illusion of a clean background is gone.
I know. I got all this like white space back here.
You guys all got like the letterbox format, widescreen, high definition, and like I'm on this. I don't know. It just looks like TikTok or flip flop or whatever the fuck.
Are you on your phone, Tate?
Yes.
You might be able to turn it sideways as long as you have your lock. I don't know if you're on an iPhone.
I don't know that I'm that good at any of this. Let's see what happens. Hold on here.
As long as you don't.
Technology.
Oh, look at that. That's perfect.
That is perfect.
That worked. I got to tighten up this gimmick. Hold on here and see what's going on.
That's right. When
Josh, tell him it's
when I show up, he's got to tighten up a little bit.
Oh, is that what it is? Hold on here. We got you. All right, there we go. All right, there we are.
Oh.
Hey, I do feel like I'm more part of this. Okay, good. Yep, yeah. So what's up,
okay,
McNabb?
Josh? What's your question for Tate Griffen there, Joshua?
You got a question? You called him for
Well,
Hey, wait a second. Look, when I lean forward, doesn't it look like my forehead's big enough you could play a Star Wars movie on it? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. It's all right. So I was trying to discard. I'm on my work computer, so I'm getting all these emails. But actually, first of all, Travis, Mike, if you wouldn't mind, I think if you didn't know, I posted recently. I was on your podcast a couple weeks ago, talked about mental health battles and everything. And so last week I posted something about my heroes. And so I would love to sit here and talk about how Tate has been a hero in my life.
Oh, come on, man. You're killing me.
Is that okay?
Josh, we just don't have enough time for that. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
All right. So the first time I ever met Tate that I can actually remember seeing him was, I approached him about doing like a professional wrestling show at Potomac State, and we had some
He
conversations.
was like, "Who's this fucking Mark?"
Yeah, me. I'm the Mark. And we were having some conversations about that. And so as that relationship was evolving, I remember also wanting to do wrestling. Like I wanted to do wrestling myself. So I was, a little invested in that. And I remember specifically there was one day where I was just walking around the country club mall, and Tate saw me and he was like, "Hey man, good for you. Like you listened to what I told you to do. You lost a little bit of weight. You look good. You're in shape," which is a very important part of being a professional wrestler, is having a good look and everything. And so he said, "Hey man, if you want to give this a try, you can come on board and be a part of the crew, and do your stuff and listen to me, listen to Jake, listen to Brian." And so right there was where I remember Tate having most influenced my life. He told me what to do. And then when I saw him again the next time, I showed him that I could listen, and he wanted me to be a part of Elite. And from that moment on, he was always giving me advice throughout the entire way. When I went to law school, he was very supportive of it. He told me, he's like, "Man, dude, congratulations and chase your dreams." And so Tate,
I even paid his tuition. So
you sure about that? I'll assign all my student loan payments to you.
Hey man, I'm just saying, if you're gonna give me credit,
Oh, you want to pay that bill? Hey,
No.
hey, you can take that bill. I'm sure my future wife will be very happy about that. But the biggest thing I gotta say is I had never had an opportunity to go into something that can be a team sport the way that I really could have been, right? I didn't have that opportunity as a kid, but you gave me an opportunity to come to Elite and to be a part of a team. You, Jake, Brian, and the locker room. And you gave me an opportunity to go in the locker room and be myself, and just, I made my friends. I met a lot of people that mean a lot to me to this day, because you put me in a locker room and they all, influenced me. You gave me an opportunity to be part of a society. And
You did that, Tate.
yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know.
No. We're not done yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let's just keep.
Last thing.
It's your fault.
Finally, the last thing is that no matter what, you always were both a big brother and a mentor to me. You would joke with me. You give me hard advice that, sometimes I didn't enjoy hearing, which is what I think, a mentor should do. But you would always be a big brother to me. You would always joke with me. You make fun with me. You always accepted my presence and enjoyed being around with me. And I really appreciate that a lot. You made me feel like part of the gang, and I appreciate that more than anything. So thank you so much.
Have you been drinking?
A little bit.
Have you been drinking?
Okay, guys, and that's the end of the Tate episode. Welcome back to the show, Josh.
But
that's a shame, Tate, because we have a bunch more guests lined up. Because Tate, this is your life. That's the segment we're doing today.
But no, seriously, dude, seriously. I mean, that is honest to God truth. I mean, what Tate did for me. I mean, he did a lot of things for me, and it meant a lot to me.
Where did it
That's
go?
really
by the
cool,
way?
man.
Now it's just us. I guess we're interviewing Josh now.
No, you're not.
No,
we're
that-
not.
No, you're not.
Part dose.
No, not at all. Not at
It
all.
was a fun show a few weeks back, though. I really enjoyed that. That was a nice,
Yeah.
conversation.
There were a couple people that reached out to me. Actually, more than a couple. Actually, yeah, a lot of people from my people who I've worked with, and
we got Tate back.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm sorry.
Well, that's Cumberland, Maryland for you.
Indeed.
We thought you were just done listening to it, so you just peaced out.
Oh no,
Okay,
no, man. I appreciate it. I do, man. I appreciate it.
Crying? Were you crying?
What's that?
Were you crying?
No.
Am I affecting you,
I
brother?
was so moved. I needed to take a minute and go weep in the bathroom.
He was like, I can't have the
Probably
audience see
should've.
me like this.
Probably should have.
Yes.
Yeah, no idea,
Tate,
man.
if it's all the same, if it's all the same, we're going to go ahead and end the broadcast. We're not going to end the broadcast. We're going to go into the after show, though. I would like to, for an editing point, I'll know that I start right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Tate Griffen. We're going to be seeing Tate in a lot of different places doing stand-up comedy. He's got this new comic book out as well. Tate, if you want to plug any social media or anything, now's the time to do it.
Yep. We have a Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance as their last show of the year this Saturday night at Short Gap Fire Hall. So all Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. It's all at Elite Pro Universe. 301-697-1909 to call and get your tickets. Or you can pick them up at Ticket Taylor / Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance. All the comedy stuff I do is at Tate Griffen Comedy. I'm trying to think here. I try to shamelessly self-promote as much as possible.
Yeah, of course. Don't forget the upcoming event Friday, November 25th. That's at the Loft 29 in downtown Cumberland, Maryland.
Yep, at loft129.org
8 p.m.
for tickets on that. Yeah. And then also on the 16th of December, we're going to be doing a show at the Indy on Main, a fundraiser for that. So if you go to Ticket Leap at IndyOnMain.com, you'll be able to get tickets for that. I think the tickets go on sale for that next week. And just reach out to me if you want a copy of the comic book. It's nothing big. I sign it, draw a picture, put it in the mail it to you.
Is this still a show, Travis? I have actually one final question, if that's okay.
I have a question too, but you go ahead. What's your question, sir?
My question for you was just like the wrestler. So from being a wrestler and also having a promotion and then doing the stand-up comedy, how do those reactions compare? Do you get the same feeling, or are they different? How are they different if they are?
I can kind of help with that because Tate, your matches, man, people would be howling laughing at some of your matches.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure. they were laughing at my level of boomer.
Messing up, right? Like,
honestly, with wrestling, I caught my limit. When I was first doing it, it was like you worried about getting hurt. And it was fun, but I was always with people that were better than me, which is a good thing. I never had any delusions of being like the best one. And not that I do with comedy either, but with comedy, it's like it doesn't require another dance partner. Like my particular brand of anxiety, when it came to wrestling, it was like, who am I wrestling? What am I going to be told to do? What do I have to do? Like, is there a way to make chicken salad out of chicken shit? Am I going to make 2x4s out of sawdust? Like, what am I going to do here? I don't have control over this. And with stand-up, it's all, for better or worse, like it's my deal. It's my thing.
So you're more in control.
Yeah, I mean, or at least there's nobody else to look to about it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the comedy thing a lot more. With wrestling, I would say I was about, by 2007, 2008, I had pretty much done what I wanted to do, and it became more about money than it did about. I mean, I still appreciated the opportunities and they were fun, but if I wasn't being paid, like there was a period in 2007 and 2008 where pro wrestling was paying my mortgage. So if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have done it. And I was ready to walk away from the promotion standpoint of it as well. This is just my personal view, but I was ready to walk away from it probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It's funny, I never needed to be at another wrestling show again by 2003, 2004, like to go buy tickets. And then my son was old enough. He was into it. So we did it. And then I got to a place about 4 years ago. It was like, I don't ever need to do this again. I don't, it's nothing against anyone. I personally do not need to be in or around a wrestling ring ever again. And then my son started doing it. And he was, he's infinitely better than I ever was. And, so it immediately drew me right back to, okay, well, no, now I'm here. I would suspect the time comes where he, if my offerings of pro wrestling, if the things I do in pro wrestling, if they're no longer of a service to him, or they're not something that helps him out in some way, like my level of interest would probably drop off significantly. Whereas stand-up comedy, I have driven 12 hours to do 5 minutes and lost a ton of money because I don't care. Like I just love it. So
Tate, can you see pictures that we post while
I see this picture from 2005.
Yeah. So you're going to be, so you've said goodbye. No more living Nightmare Griffin. And then this, but hey man, you got the pictures, you got matches, you lived it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's fun. And the thing is, I get to talk to all the guys that like sitting here shooting the shit with you guys. Like, this is fun. I mean, McMasters and I remember going to Alexandria, Virginia, and it was you and I want to say it was you and Cordell against me. It was me and Draconis. Brandon Draconis in a steel cage. Draconis comes off the top of the cage like Donkey Kong with a big splash. And the guy that was running the show couldn't find his ass with both hands and didn't have the straps for the steel cage. So he had guys standing on each side of the ring. There's like 8 people holding the cage in place while we wrestle in it. Like shit like that, being in a truck for 4 hours together, driving and doing that kind of stuff. I remember somebody, I hate egg salad. I fucking hate it. I hate raw egg. Like it makes me want to puke.
I'm with you. Egg salad is gross.
It's gross. Somebody got in the front seat of the thing, looked over and just belched in my face with that shit.
Oh,
and
wow.
rather than beating the living shit out of them, I asked them to check something in the back. Then I just locked them in the truck that had a 6,000-pound ring weighing around it. It's like, well, fucking sit back there till we get to Alexandria. Let me know how things go. Shit like that. It's just, and Travis, I'll never in my life forget Brian Leatherman giving you that gorilla press and walking over and just like kind of letting you free fall outside that low boy that CPW had. I'm sure you remember that.
Oh yeah, that was my go-to spot. I was like, at that stage of my career too, I was like, what do I do that makes others look good? Because I don't know how to make myself look good. And I was like, Leslie, you're a big guy. Hoist me up, throw me over. He actually still talks to me about that spot too. That's cool.
Because it's awesome. Because you got these guys that are, kind of wusses at times about stuff. I mean, I'm not saying anything about anything other than you got guys that want to talk like they're badasses, but then they don't want to do anything that, I'm not saying dangerous. They just don't want to do anything. I don't think about I want to do this. And then you got somebody like you that comes in and it's like, you really want to do it. You really want to be a part of it. You are like, hey, this would make you look good. And it's like finding ways to be a part of it while trying to make other guys look good. Like, that's rare, man. So I like sitting here shooting the shit with you and doing this. This is fun, man. Like you doing stand up, that's awesome. I love that. Like Corey lives, an hour and a half from me. My buddy Zach, we live near each other, and we started doing the stand up thing together. And you know how it is. The car trips are more fun sometimes than the stage time. Well, he moved to Dover, Delaware, so I find when I go on these trips, like a lot of them I'm doing by myself. So it's more fun to have guys with you, and so yeah, man, I'm all about this stuff. I got it. My one question was what's the difference between the show and the after show? Does something happen differently?
Well, that's when we bring in the girls.
None of it will be available. What'd you say, Mike?
That's when the strippers show up.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ!
I mean, you haven't seen the after show yet.
No.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. I think it has to happen before I can see it.
Yeah, no, you're still live right now.
Yeah, we're actually still in the podcast episode. Once the podcast episode ends, then
I was just curious what makes the post show different than this show.
Well, the
It was
podcast is very much focused on, in this case, in this episode, the interview with you. And then an after show is pretty much a free for all. Whatever we want to do, talk about, anything's fair game.
Oh, okay, cool.
And on my show, I have to talk, Tate. I have to keep talking. On the after show, I don't talk at all.
Yeah, you
okay.
I just sit here.
Is McMaster's going to be on the after show?
Of course, that's why he's here.
Okay, then I'm afraid I got to get out of here. I'll talk to you guys.
I know
Guys,
it's coming.
listen to the Travis Dufour Show every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern at the Dufour brand, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You can watch on your preferred method, and we will see you on the next episode.
And that's it. That's the podcast.
Rock on.
We're in the after show.
So, Tate, do we not upload the episode?
Oh, did something happen?
No, I thought it was very good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, sure, man. I mean, no, but seriously, was there something that I shouldn't have said, or?
I think it was pretty tame. You did you listen to Josh's episode?
No, dude, I don't have time to. I mean, it was like pulling teeth to try to make sure I had time to be here.
He doesn't care about anything.
Yeah. Also, I don't give a fuck
He
about.
doesn't care.
Jake came up to me and said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. Like, no, it was great. You know, thank you so much for saying that." And
Jake's a lot better at lying than I am. Here's the thing. Here's the thing: is in all seriousness, it's the combination of I'm insanely busy and just trying to be on the show. It's what I wanted to do, coupled with the fact that I couldn't give less of a rat's ass about what Masters has going on.
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is.
No, I didn't get to listen to
You're
it.
an old ass man that is lazy and just can't even get up and even take the trash.
Well, I tell you what, because it's like everybody and his brother has a podcast or had one. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I'm always hoping for the best with those. But what it seemed like every time I had a friend that reached out and said, "Hey, I got a podcast, man. Check out an episode, and then like you'll be on it next week." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be on it." And then I watch like one of their podcast shows. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking do this. This sucks. Like, I'm not doing this. It's like I just decided it's not that big a deal, and if it's fun, that's all that matters. So I'm not gonna watch it and then have a reason to not do it. I'd rather just be on it. I don't know if that makes sense. That probably makes me sound like a giant asshole, but that's what I was like. I was like, I like Travis. Travis is a good guy. Travis is quick on his feet. He's always been funny. He's always been a good guy. Like, I'll have fun talking to him. But I was like, I'm not going to watch the show because if he's on there with McMasters and then like, I don't know, the sound's shitty or something's like really crappy, I don't want to be like, sorry, man, I can't be on your show. But did you watch it? Yeah, I did. That's why I'm not fucking on it. But no, this was good, man. I enjoyed it. I'd do it again, especially if you had someone besides Josh show up. That would be great.
I will always find a way to infiltrate your life.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
We are trying to do that though. With like future guests and stuff. We tried it with you. We'll just somebody from the past, boom, bring him in.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What I think you should do is bring me in as the guest when they don't know who I am, and I'll act like I do know who they are and how much they help me, and then just see them sit there and squirm like, who the fuck is this?
Like, you were an inspiration to me. They're like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Is there anybody you'd refuse to have on your show? Give me the top 5 people that you wouldn't put on the show.
That I wouldn't put on the show. Holy shit.
At the end of the day,
I mean, I'm joking. Like, that's putting you on the spot. I was gonna be like, give me 5 people that we all know that you wouldn't put on the show, but I wouldn't want to answer that question. So I'm not asking you to.
Hey, but real talk here, though, Mike, Travis, I appreciate the opportunity to interrupt here, but Tate, man, you've been a hero in my life. Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
buddy.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I thank you. I don't really know what to say to that. That's very kind of you to say.
And Travis, actually, honestly, Travis, and I'm sorry that I didn't tag you in my post, but I mean, we talked about how you called me, when I was in the hospital and everything, and you and I, so you're in there too. So just remember that. So I appreciate this, I really do. But Tate, fuck you.
Did I lose any? I just want to say that I thought it was really big of you to not deduct any points from my overall level of heroism whenever I had called the hospital to ask them to do what they could to undermine your recovery.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Remember that time? Remember that time they gave you for lunch? They gave you green beans, baked beans, and kidney beans. That was me.
They replaced kidney with white beans.
What's going on with your hair, man? Is that I can't tell. Is that like
dude? I have a hairline problem, man. I'm getting old.
Me and Josh have similar hair. What's wrong with the hair, Dave?
Dude, it's called a hairline problem. It's called being an old ass man.
The other day, look at this. I got this all cut on the side. My daughter said I look like Adam Duritz from Counting Crows if he was a white supremacist.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's the love there, man. Good.
Yeah, great kids, man.
Yeah, they're characters. Truly, they are characters.
And by the way, I'll also say, man, Max, man, that's incredible, man. He's done so much early on in his career, and I wish him the best.
Yeah, he's a character as well.
Oh, I know he is.
Yes, indeed. So, do 4. How's like you said, your audience is growing?
My what?
Your audience is growing?
Oh, yeah, the show does pretty good. I mean, you're not going to see a bunch of waves of likes coming to your page. Don't be giving yourself false hopes. But
hey, man, it took me like 20 years to figure it out. If you're having fun, that's really all that matters.
Because we just started this thing, what, Travis? June? May? When do we do this?
Might have even, yeah.
Actually,
like
earlier
that.
than that, it was like March or something, April.
It was like April, March,
around there.
Yeah, man.
No, but just like you, Tate, like it just seems like you're constantly, not constantly, but like you're tackling as many things as you can. And podcasting, I have to, because there's this creative muscle in my brain that has to keep exercising. I'm gonna fucking lose it. So that's why I need it.
So, because I'm not inclined in this way with the technology. How many people could you like conceivably have in this? Like it'd be like Brady Bunch squares.
You can have 10 people. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I would never do that.
I've seen lots of shows with 8 to 10 people, and it actually sometimes works well.
My problem is I can't think of 8 to 10 people that I can tolerate. You know.
The shows that do that, though, they're pretty structured. They usually have like a topic at hand, and then they go, from one person to the next so that it's structured and not everybody's talking over each other.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I respect that. I think someone would have to like, I don't know, like every 2 minutes, like harpoon one of them at random, until we whittle it all the way down. It's like, let's have this conversation. You can't bring up the harpoon thing, but every like 2 minutes, whoever was the most boring or offered the least of the conversation gets a harpoon. I mean, it doesn't have to kill them. Like put it in the shoulder or something. And then like, so they're belly aching off screen. They just cut out their square, just keep whittling it down. And by the time you get to like 2 or 3 people, it's going to be entertaining as fuck.
Jen Davis writes in, love Tate Griffen, #1 Reggie fan. Great podcast. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
And is that your sister?
For your comment.
What's that?
That's your sister, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my sister. I was like, you ask me questions you already know the answers to. She's always been very supportive, and that's cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had a sister. I thought it was Jake and Jake only.
No. Yeah, no, I have a sister, I have a brother. I guess that's it. I don't know where I was going from there. I probably have sister-in-laws and brother-in-law and another brother-in-law, another sister-in-law.
Yeah, but you Tate, you had a shit ton of kids. You probably have a pretty big Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, I got 3 of them. But Max, Reggie Collins is like 8 kids. So
yeah.
No,
I could have sworn you had 4. I thought you had 3 daughters. And
no, my brother does. My brother has 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, my brother has 2 sons and 3 daughters.
Wow, that is a full house.
Yeah. Reggie, and then my daughter Savannah, and then my youngest daughter Gwen. And
who got to name them?
You know what? It's funny you say that because I I don't think my wife would argue that. I got to pick out the names that they legally have, as long as she got to say what they're referred to in real life.
Like their nickname?
Just are any of you guys Simpsons fans?
Yeah.
Okay, like I'm all about the Simpsons. And so when my wife was pregnant with Max, we were, because my name is George Edward Davis the fourth of four thus far. And so we are going to call him something else. So there's not all these Georges running around. And I was like, let's call him Scoey. Remember, little Scoys. Oh, Scoey, stop talking crazy. McBain's partner, Scoey.
No.
You ever saw that one? Remember McBain had his partner, Scoey? He's like, I'm going to retire. He's like, oh, Scoey, stop talking crazy. The guy got shot like 100 times by Mendoza. Okay, again, I told you I'd get on the wormhole in the Simpsons. But I was kicking that around. No, we settled with Max. With Savannah, she wanted to call her Savannah. Her first name is Genesis, after the greatest British progressive rock band of our time. Her full name's Genesis Savannah Ann Davis. And then my youngest daughter is Gwen. Her name is Guinevere, after a character off of Genesis' album "Selling England by the Pound." So yeah, I'm pretty hardcore on that.
Wow. And obviously your son is too, naming himself Reggie Collins.
Yeah. And then shockingly, Genesis toured in 2022. We took in March, I think. I took my dad. My dad saw every Genesis tour since 1976, and so like literally 50 years later, me, my dad, and my son go to Pittsburgh and see Genesis. 50 years later. And yeah, he did like 3 of the songs he did on that first 76 tour. And it was, yeah, dude, truly extraordinary.
Mike Yatsko, are you a Genesis guy?
No.
Oh, okay.
I am not.
It's just it has shaped Tate's whole life, and you're just not.
Dude, no joke. When I'm like 8 years old, 9 years old, my parents have home movies, and like we'll be on like a pontoon boat or something, and their album's playing in the background. Like it's the soundtrack of my whole life. Yeah. And I'm not talking like Invisible Touch, We Can Dance, but like the British progressive rock of the 70s. And, like 22-minute songs and things. Just, yeah. It's...
When you were in a band, were you covering Phil Collins tunes?
Phil can sing in every key. Like his range is just unbelievable. And they always use that to their advantage. So when they're writing music, I mean, they do pop songs for the radio, but the deeper cuts on the albums, the range that he covers in a single song is so wide and vast. There's just not very many songs. That's why you don't hear a lot of bands covering it, is because it's kind of next level shit.
Yeah, the fucking one guy from Disturbed is the only one of all of them.
I'll tell you a funny story. When they did that Late of Confusion, when Disturbed came out with that, this guy that was training with us, I don't want to give away his name, Curtis Spiker, was sitting in the back of the old Big Bear Lake. I'm sure you've been there before. Big Bear Show, where you're changing your clothes outside. So we're sitting out back.
Spiker?
What's that?
You say Curtis Spiker?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, continue on.
So we're sitting out there in the gravel changing on lawn chairs, and I heard Curtis go, "Oh man, that Disturbed's so much better than Genesis version. That Disturbed song, man, that's so freaking awesome." So I go walking in, and Bob Keller's there. Bobby Keller, and I said, "Hey Bob, this kid's out here saying Disturbed's better than Genesis." And it's getting to me. So maybe you just got there, just give him a little bit of a hard time or something. Bob was like, "Hey, no problem, brother. I'll take care of that. No problem at all." And I'm thinking he's just gonna go out and like read in the riot act a little bit. He turns that corner and goes, "Who's a sawed-off cocksucker motherfucker and has a problem with you? Is it you little piece of shit?" And he's like up in his face, "No, I'm sorry." Then a few minutes later, Doc Gallows is sitting there with Jake, and we send Josh McMasters to the ring. You remember this?
Oh God, you're gonna say it, aren't you?
Oh my God. He goes walking up to the ring, and he's supposed to be a heel. Goes walking out as soon as he gets out there. First time we have him booked for Shane Shadows at CBW. He goes to walk around the ring. A 5-year-old girl stand there and went, "Boo! Nice. I don't like you." And he looks down and goes, "Shut up, you little piece of shit."
Jesus.
So
she was 9. 9
years old. Wow.
She's like, "Dad, look, I'm gonna go talk to the wrestlers."
She was either
she was
5
young enough. She was young enough. It might have been the first time she heard the word shit. And
It's so true.
so I'm standing back there, Jake's standing there, and I'll never forget seeing Jake just like, and and Drew's behind him like this, like this. He goes, "Did you just really go out there and call that little girl a piece of shit? Did you really just fucking do that? Got your books on the show? Just call her a piece of shit? That really fucking happened?"
Hey, you want to be the
What's wrong
heel?
with you?
If you're gonna be the heel, man. If you're gonna be the heel.
I say go the full 9 and don't wuss out when it comes to dogging elementary school girls.
Yeah, Josh was doing it way before MJF was.
Oh,
Right?
dear Lord.
Right? So,
Yeah, I'm just saying, Josh, that 10, 15 years from now, that girl's not going to be on a podcast and refer to you as her hero.
every time
Oh,
I see Bodie Williams, that's all he reminds me of is my reputation. about
Wait, do
boys.
you mean every time you see Bodie Williams in person, or every time you're laying in bed and look up and see the poster of him on your ceiling?
Both?
He is a beautiful man.
I don't even know where that came from. It just felt mean and right.
It was both. It's both. It's both. I got one above. I got, it. You can't see it. You can't see it. I made sure you can't see it. But what I wake up to every morning, I aspire to be that. But then when I see him in person, I get reminded. of the fact that once upon a time, I did something like that where I called a little girl, a piece of shit, and I have to live with that till the day that I die.
You're all
I have
serious
to
about
live
it?
with that.
You're all serious? I got to live with that. It's really terrible.
Hey, if you want to be a heel, I mean, it's funny because like I got started training with Shane in CPW when I was 16 with Travis, and then I actually got an opportunity. But the real reason why I got the opportunity was because of Tate, because of Jake, because of Brian being with Elite. Probably,
And he thanked us by calling one of the 5-year-old fans a piece of shit.
wow.
Dude, I'll tell you this. I would not change that for anything. It's one of the funniest things that ever happened.
not only is it funny, it is very funny. But George, I will say that out of George, Jake, and Brian, George knows me more than the 3 of them, and that probably did not surprise Tate. It probably did not surprise you. He's like, yeah, that's not surprising, but it's funny as hell, isn't it?
He is. I'm a little wigged out by this path you're going down about how much better I know you. Like, yeah,
how many times?
If I see a picture of him from the neck down with no clothes on, I can identify him in a lineup.
Jesus.
No, I'm talking about it more from like a personality, sort of like how many times do people come up and be like, Josh is being a bit of a dick today?
In all seriousness, Mike and Travis, why is he still on the show? What's going on?
No, he's usually a part of the after show. So
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. I kicked him off.
You just canceled him. Oh,
But,
no,
hey,
this is the first time. No, Josh had told me about a week or so ago. Whenever I told him that you were coming onto the show tonight, and he was. I think that he was planning on doing this all week because he was pretty excited. He was
was
"Man, I
giddy
love
with
Tate,
excitement,
can't wait
huh?"
to listen.
yeah. Oh, man, that's great.
Man, I'm glad if my show can bring some old connections together and all that. I'm all for that. I love that.
not that I talked to you like probably 2 weeks ago, right, Tate?
What's that?
I think I talked to you like 2-3
What
weeks
the
ago,
fuck?
I
right?
believe it was the spring of 2017.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I look at my phone history, I think we talked about 2-3 weeks ago, but whatever. I guess maybe you forgot about how much you actually do love me.
Maybe the conversation wasn't that memorable.
Oh, why are you backing him up? Why are you backing
I
him
don't know,
up?
but see,
Mike?
I met Mike 2 hours and 8 minutes ago, and I already like him more than you. Now that's not on you entirely, Josh. I mean, mostly it is.
Well, the amount of hate that I'm feeling here right now is no different than what I feel in my job as a lawyer. Everybody hates
Dude, I want to know, like,
Yeah, lawyers really do get a lot of hate.
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the angle though of the camera. Like, do you have that like sitting on the toilet seat? Like, is the camera on the toilet seat shooting up at you?
I've been taking a giant dump for the last, hour.
I'm saying it's like from down looking above. Like, I don't know.
We're looking up at you.
It looks like that video that would be on MySpace when that dude from 2020 is waiting to collect your ass.
Tom, would you prefer me to do something like this, where I put it right here? Just do this.
Well, if you are pooping, it's really small turds because you're not grunting or nothing.
I could sit Indian cross leg style and whatnot.
Maybe turn around so that the light's facing you, so it doesn't look like you're like,
Hannibal.
I don't know, video distorted in an episode of FBI Files on fucking Dateline. Maybe that's a good idea.
It's really, at the end of the day, it's just literally I'm just sitting in my bed.
Oh, okay. I was saying, man, I'm telling you that lighting and everything, you got this David Mark Chapman look, like they're interviewing you from Solitary about killing John Lennon.
Well, at least I have a constant connection where I'm not being broken in and out, like you are there. In the
you hadn't heard this before. My other daughter told me that I look like Jason Momoa gave the fuck up.
Gave the fuck. Wow.
Wow. That was a way better burn.
Yeah, they know what's up. At one point, they were saying, that guy Little Sweet? I don't know who that is. Little Sweet. Remember the little guy that rode the jet ski on a tidal wave of Dr. Pepper? And he goes, sweet.
Oh, yeah. Vaguely, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that guy. I go, yeah, you could be his boyfriend.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's enough.
Harsh.
Yeah. No, pretty harsh. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can really add to this for you guys, or if I'm just kind of taking up space here. I mean, other than the tour of my home, which I don't think you want.
Oh, no. Well, I'm just going to make some plugs here, and then we'll end the broadcast and
all right.
our way.
Well, I'm going to get out of the way, but Travis, thanks so much. Mike, it was great meeting you. And
yeah, nice meeting you, Tate. Thanks for coming on.
Just say it.
All right, then. So.
All right.